YouTube Bazik going, the Goat House is back. And we're talking about NFL rookies that look like absolute steals so far through training camp, couple preseason weeks. Obviously, the regular season will determine actual facts. But good to talk about the rookies, highlight them as they've been playing a little bit here in the offseason, late offseason. So excited about this. We'll talk about guys that were drafted that look like steals, and then at the end we'll talk about some undrafted guys. So bunch of content covering the NFL on the channel. More to come. In-season content right around the corner. Hopefully you join us for that. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Always talking with you guys on Twitter. Very important to follow that. Links pinned in the comments for Twitter, other social medias, and our sponsors, including Liquid IV, code GOAT, 20% off. So obvious one here. Let's talk about Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the Browns quarterback who was drafted in round 5, looking like an absolute steal because how he's played through preseason. I know it's just preseason, and he got the start in the last game as well, but he looks legit. I mean, the poise, how relaxed he is, how he's picking up this offense, this quick, knowing when to get rid of the ball, knowing when to step. I've seen him stepping out of the pocket past pressure so well, too. We know he has the feet, the athletic ability, but a lot of that is up here and the footwork, and it's been so impressive. And knowing when to run, not because he can run, he can move, obviously he could scoot, but you don't want to be a run-first guy. You don't want to use your legs too much. If there's an opportunity to throw, then throw, and he's done that so well. A big thing with him coming out of UCLA, well, a couple things. He played for a long time there, obviously, and he's always been good. You just kind of you were waiting for him to take that next step. Why wasn't he taking that next step? So that was, even though he was very solid, so that was, it's not really a concern, but that was a thing that, maybe a positive he was missing, lacking. But it looks like he's taking steps, as he's playing in the NFL here, learning an NFL offense. But a major thing was a lot of throwing on his toes, maybe the footwork being a little off. And there are some throws that, here and there, but not many of them in preseason so far, this early stage, where, you can see he's on his toes a little bit and the throw's a little off target. So that's kind of what happens when he's off target, but he's really cleaned it up, especially the footwork. We talked about him like stepping up past the pressure. So he's probably the most impressive guy just because of specifics. And there's other guys that maybe are a little bit more of a surprise. Another quarterback we'll talk about. They've been super impressive because we did not expect him to be that good. But I'm looking at specifics like what he's like fixed already, given all those things, and him starting that last game, playing against some a lot of second stringers, I guess, in the Eagles, but good ones. The Eagles are deep. It's just so impressive. So it looks like the Browns got a legitimate one here in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think a perfect backup for Deshaun Watson. I know they have Josh Dobbs as well, so maybe they keep 3, but I think those quarterbacks kind of go well together on the Cleveland Browns. And the Browns actually pop up twice on this list, and we knew they had a pretty good draft. I actually said right after the draft, for a team that did not have a first or a second round pick, I think it might have been the best draft I've ever seen. I actually said that, sometime just after the draft when we were ranking, I think the video when we were ranking or grading the drafts. For a team that did not have a pick in the first 2 rounds, I think it was the best draft class before we seen them play in the NFL that I've seen. And it's very early. It's just training camp preseason, but man, it looks pretty good. Dwan Jones, we thought could go late 1. As the draft was approaching, we were starting to think early 2, just because how good he is coming from Ohio State and how important tackles are and how limited they're, very good ones there are out there, and you have a kind of a rare, freaky dude here. I know he's lacking great athleticism, but he's still freaky what he's able to do, how his size, his length, but he drops to the 4th round. And this was huge for the Browns to get Dwan Jones. We knew that at the time because it was a steal, but because they're very good at developing offensive linemen in that scheme, it's a scheme built for offensive line. They have very good offensive linemen, but they have some injury concerns. Jack Conklin's a fantastic right tackle, but Dwan Jones is the backup to him now. He looks like he's capable of starting right now. He looks so good. He's not giving up pressures. We already know he's a good run blocker. We already knew that. It wasn't a worry, even though he dropped the 4th round, it wasn't a worry at all. But he looks so good in pass protection, using his length, and his footwork looks quicker than expected. He's really good job mirroring pass rushers. I thought he did a good job against Nolan Smith, who that was, Nolan Smith ended up coming out of the game early in that week 2 preseason game, but Nolan Smith's a pure speed guy off the edge, getting around the outside using that bend, and so maybe that was Dwan Jones's, kryptonite, his weakness, like what he, where he could struggle. But I thought he did a good job. There was times where, Nolan Smith would jump the snap, do what he does, get around the outside really fast. But Dwan Jones would use his length and get out there quick enough and seal him out of the play, even though something might be considered a pressure. I don't know if they end up being considered a pressure or not, but he won those reps in my eyes, so he did a really good job there. So, we knew that was probably a steal, and it looks even more like a steal because it looks like he can start, right? Like, it looks like, okay, this guy could have been a first-round pick and starting for somebody at right tackle. That's huge. It's huge for the Browns because if Jack Conklin goes down, which you hope he doesn't because he's a fantastic ball player, but you got Dwan Jones in there, so that's huge for the Browns. Keep that offensive line very solid. Just a fantastic job by the Browns. So 2 for the Browns right there. Another quarterback I want to talk about, Aidan OConnell, has been tearing it up. Arguably the best rookie quarterback in preseason. Him versus Dorian Thompson-Robinson for that, in that category. Thompson-Robinson, it's a tough one because I had Thompson-Robinson. If I had to pick one, who's better? We don't really need to. They're both great. But I had Thompson-Robinson rated better than O'Connell coming in. So maybe you say O'Connell is a little more surprising, a little more impressive in that regard. Dorian Thompson-Robinson's doing things that, like, he's showing that he improved on things, like in an offseason or just by the time getting to the Browns. So I love that about him, kind of taking those weaknesses away. Aidan O'Connell's out there balling. He's been a smart quarterback at Purdue. And he's doing that in the NFL. That's the biggest thing in the NFL with these quarterbacks. Like, who's staying confident, who's staying calm, relaxed, some guys, like, they're very talented, but it's just like too big of a stage, especially early on when they first suit up. We saw, I think there was some nerves with a guy like C.J. Stroud in the first preseason game. I think he kind of slowly started to shed that a little bit. Bryce Young, I think we're still seeing that. I see it in the footwork and the body language. And those are the most talented guys. But guys like Thompson-Robinson, but I think that, where he stood out a little bit more, again, fixing like footwork, being a little smarter. But O'Connell, what stands out most about him is, the poise, like how calm, and it's not too big of a stage. Just sitting in the pocket, and letting it sling. Putting some accurate balls on some targets. And he's not playing with the best of targets, I suppose. He's not playing with the Devontae Adams and the Jacoby Myers quite yet. So that's where he is most impressive, and he's been, tearing it up, fitting some tight window balls in there as well. So, and there was some scouts talking about him being like the most pro-ready guy, perhaps, and maybe we see that out of the day 3 guys. So maybe we're seeing that in action. So it's just natural to him, and that's kind of what stands out. And he's putting up some good numbers too. So he's been extremely impressive. So, and what I think when we talk about O'Connell and how he's playing well, like what pops in mind, like, is he going to play this year? You hope not, because Garoppolo's a solid quarterback and you want him to stay healthy, but he's had some struggles staying healthy, I suppose. So, if he goes down, they have Aidan O'Connell. Is he the next guy in line? So I guess you feel a little more comfortable at that because you're seeing him play some good ball. And maybe, if he gets in there and takes that, gets that opportunity, does he give it back up? Like, is it his job then? Does he play that well? So something we're keeping an eye on here. And the Titans running back Taija Spears, which he didn't go like too late. So is it an epic steal? Maybe not, but in round 3, a fantastic back. I mean, the reason he dropped to round 3, which isn't a big-time drop for him, but was because past injuries. He actually thought about retiring while he was at Tulane a few years ago because of a knee injury. But we knew he was super talented running the football and catching the football as well. But he looks legit. It's pretty easy to judge NFL running back. It's pretty easy to judge running backs in general, but it's pretty easy to judge running backs, evaluate running backs when they're in the NFL and you see them. You only need to see a handful of carries. Do they see the hole? Do they hit the hole? Do they hit the hole in, pretty quick, timely manner? And then what, that's first. See the hole, hit the hole. How fast can you hit the hole? What comes after the hole is next. The bonus, the next step. And Taija Spears, you only need to see a few runs to see that. He's seeing the hole. He's hitting it very fast. He's making people miss in the hole. We're saying the word hole a lot, but it's very important when it comes to running back. And you see him fly. Hurdle a guy in the Vikings game last week. So all of the above. I mean, the speed, the quickness. I mean, after the fact is what stands out. It's kind of eye-popping speed, like faster than we thought. Like, is this guy getting faster? Is he getting healthier? Is he getting stronger? Is he getting faster? It looks like it, so that's kind of the eye-popping part in the open field. But what I like and what people kind of overlook is the second he gets the handoff and getting to that line of scrimmage, getting through that line of scrimmage, it was like lightning. He saw the hole, he hit it, he hurdled the guy right after. You don't need to see too many more reps to know the guy's got it. You don't really need, he's got all of the above. So just got to stay healthy. Hopefully he does that. But this guy, Derrick Henry and Taija Spears looks pretty ridiculous. That's good too, because you don't want, unfortunately, you don't want Spears to get like a full crazy load because he's had those past injuries, and maybe he can handle that one day here soon. But and he can catch the ball at a very high level too. So it's just fantastic pairing there with Derrick Henry. So really excited about that. What the Titans got there in round 3. Next, talk about the Patriots taking KeShawn Booty, which was one of my favorite guys in the draft. I think people were overthinking with him because he ran a bad 40, and maybe some character concerns, but there was nothing ever really serious with him with the character concerns. You just kind of, people I think forgot, like, just a big time playmaker. He was a top recruit at LSU for a reason. It's a guy that's going to get open. You can put him in the slot. He's going to get open, and he's going to be fantastic after the catch. That's what we see from Booty, hearing good things in training camp, and we saw him making big plays in that he had a really big play in that second preseason game there. He was all the way down to round 6. I thought he was a guy that could go early round 3. So, and the Patriots, it's kind of up for grabs, like spots on their depth chart at the receiver position. You would think Juju and Bourne are the top 2 guys, obviously, but that's a little bit of a battle. I think it's a plug-and-play type guy here. He's shown that at LSU. I think he's shown it now. Like, he's a guy you just put on the field, you put in the slot. Again, he doesn't have to play in the slot, but that's where he's better. And he finds some open spots there, and he'll get open, and he'll be fantastic after the catch. And it's coming from LSU, too, where those guys are known for, being able to get open, read coverages, and make big plays after the catch. So I thought that was it's looking like an absolute. I kind of thought that the second he didn't get drafted in day 2, because I was a big KeShawn Booty guy. Like, I thought he could be a Jarvis Landry type guy, who actually came from LSU as well. That's kind of a coincidence that he can be a Jarvis Landry type guy, and he happened to come from LSU. But so I thought he was going to be a steal after day 2 ended. I'm like, all right, this guy's still available, and he ended up going round 6. So another receiver, Ronnie Bell, who just tore it up in that last preseason game against the Broncos. Round 7 guy from Michigan. And he actually, a couple years ago, he kind of caught our eye, with some plays here and there, that this guy might be something, but then kind of maybe it got quieter. Some other receivers hopped over him, I suppose, but looked really good looked like a Niners receiver. I mean, really good after the catch, and they were comfortable kind of doing whatever with him, just getting the ball in space. The vision, and he slipped some tackles too. That was impressive, and can take some contact. But either the vision, like the open field vision, looked really, really good. So we got a playmaker here, and a Niners type playmaker. And imagine this guy's a round 7 pick, makes the team, and is kind of a guy, in case somebody gets hurt, he steps in. And what stands out is if they were kind of designing plays for him. They felt comfortable getting him the ball pretty much anywhere on the field. So it seems like a do-it-all type receiver, which I didn't realize that he was like that much of a do. I know he can do different things, but really a do-it-all type receiver that just really can play 49er football. So that's kind of what stands out there. Round 7, already looking like an epic steal. It's training camp. It's preseason. Regular season will determine things, not just this regular season, future regular seasons, but man, looks like an epic steal there for the San Francisco 49ers. Again, I said it multiple times, but I love it. Just feels like a 49ers type of guy there too. They're talking about receivers, the Giants, which I knew the Giants got a steal with Jalen Hyatt in round 3 when they took him, but doing big time things in training camp. It's all you hear about, big time things in training camp. In the last preseason game, if you watched it, he actually had a bad drop. I hated that because he got open going across the field, kind of downfield, 20 yards downfield. Did what he, used that speed, get open. That's what he does. He gets open and downfield. And he did have to catch it in stride, but he did drop the ball, and I was like, damn, he's got to catch that ball. The very next play, so he does have to clean up on that, but the very next play, just burns someone deep and just finds the open gap, in the corner there to the end zone, and Tyrod Taylor hit him. So it just kind of brings up like multiple things, like several things, like the speed, to be able to get open deep for that, what you're trying to do, get touchdowns, get points, what every team's trying to do. But be able to read where to go, because he had to read the safety and do I go post or do I go corner? What's the best decision here? Because it was he made the right decision. He found the open spot there. It's what he does. It's what he did at Tennessee, and it almost feels like he got knocked for. It's crazy because he burned so many guys deep. That's like what he did. He did so much of that it's really like mostly what he did. So I think people were knocking him because that's really all he did. But he burned. It's basically he beat so many guys deep and scored so many times that he did it too much. That's what it was almost. It's almost what it was like. I think people overthinking things. We're gonna see what he's still got to see what he does in the regular season, but he's got to catch the ball. We saw. I'm not really too worried about it. He didn't drop the ball a whole lot in college, but it's a guy that could find open spots in coverages, has elite speed, gets open, makes that home run play that turns into touchdowns that are touchdowns. What else is there to think about here? And he's showing it in training camp. He's showing it in preseason. It's a guy you should want on your team. It's a guy that can take the top off the defense. It's a guy that can get you a score at any given time. It's a guy that, defenses have to fear. So he's showing that over and over again. So, and the Giants needed a receiver they need a big-time receiver in general. So I think he's going to be a big-time receiver. So I was pretty damn confident when they whoever was going to draft him in the third round was getting an epic steal, and then good things are happening here in training camp preseason. So, the Giants got 2 on this list. The Browns had 2. The Giants had 2. Trey Hawkins, mainly a training camp thing. I mean, he's been fantastic. Talking about him being a starter already. They drafted Deonte Banks, who was a fantastic fit in the first round. You could have 2 rookie starters out there, and they have some other guys to give him competition. But Hawkins out of Old Dominion is looking legit in that man coverage defense. So that's very impressive, being able to step in small school guy, somewhat small school, be that guy in round 6. He's almost looked better than Deonte Banks. I would still expect Deonte Banks to be better. And they also have Adoree Jackson too, so some competition. But Adoree Jackson's got to start. He was fantastic last year, but it's got to have some inside-outside versatility. But, could we see all 3 of those guys, the 2 rookies on the field? That'd be interesting to see. But Adoree Jackson does have the injury concern, so it's good to have a number of young, good corners here. But this has been a guy that's been a big-time standout apparently in training camp. So the Giants get 2 guys on this list. Nick Herbig, the Wisconsin pass rusher of the Steelers in round 4. This guy was, just undersized, severely undersized, in length for an edge rusher. So that was kind of the issue. He had production that said first round, maybe early second if you're pushing a little bit there. So he had that production, but is he going to be able to handle the offensive tackles in the NFL? And I guess we'll still see in the regular season, but he looks legit, getting a lot of pressure, getting sacks already in preseason. He's a guy that, forget the size, forget the measurables, the measurements, is a guy that just knows how to get after the quarterback. And you thought maybe there's some upside as off ball, but could be a pass rusher with the Steelers. We talked about at the time, the Steelers had a crazy draft, obviously, but was this a pick out of their draft picks that I was crazy about? It wasn't really one of those. They had a bunch of other steals that stood out a little bit more. But at the same time, we were saying this is kind of the perfect spot for him if he's going to continue being an edge rusher. That Mike Tomlin 3-4 defense gets the most out of these pass rushers. They don't really care about the measurables. If you can get after the quarterback, they're going to help you continue getting after the quarterback. And we're seeing that here from Nick Herbig. So could he just continue on with that production and just again getting after the quarterback? He definitely could, and they could end up being a steal for a round 4 guy here. Then DeMarco Helms, Alabama safety, who looking really good for the Falcons. He's making plays on the ball. He's been very sticky in coverage for a safety too, and that's a key thing we're talking about here. But kind of going into Alabama, maybe he's just overlooked because Alabama had guys all over that secondary. So maybe he's just overlooked. But Alabama, I thought, actually ran a lot more zone coverage last year with the guys they had. Brian Branch being instinctive, and he was good in man coverage as well. Jordan Battle was more of a zone safety. But Helms, looking pretty good when they're in man coverage there in Atlanta, even manning up in guys and being sticky in coverage, then keeping his eyes on the quarterback, making a play on the ball. So maybe just two things. Maybe he's just overlooked because the other Alabama talent that are just bigger, they've been bigger names, just not just in the draft or during the last year, but their entire careers. We've known about them coming out of high school, so maybe he's just overlooked for that reason. But maybe he's just, needed a better scheme fit. Maybe, Alabama running things to get the most out of their star guys, Brian Branch, some of the corners they have there, Jordan Battle, so the Falcons, I'd imagine they run a lot more man coverage this year, bringing in Ryan Nielsen, and we saw that. I think where he's specifically standing out is some man coverage plays, but I think a lot of two-man under, and they'll mix up. They'll run zone as well, which Helms is the background in, so it's looking like one of those guys that could have, and it's early. We're just basing this off of so far, just something fun to talk about, where the rookies get their opportunities. But it's looking like a guy that could just have a better NFL career than college career because maybe he fit scheme-wise, maybe he fits something a little bit more. So it's a round 7 guy that looks like could make the Falcons roster. And Jesse Bates is set in stone, obviously. For when they want to run cover 1, that's where he will really stand out, but could run that 2-man under as well. But the other safety spot, you have a couple guys that can play. Richie Grant, which there was, he's still got upside. We thought maybe they would get a little bit more out of him so far. Maybe the new staff will. They also have Jalen Hawkins, who's been a little bit better the recent years. But now they have Helms as well. So could he sneak in there for some playing time? But could this be a guy they put in the box to, maybe man up on tight ends or, somebody in the slot? I think that's a possibility actually here. I know they have a number of guys that they like playing, they like to have for slot corner, but they can kind of get creative. So this could be a rotational guy early. Could he eventually take the job next to Jesse Bates? Possibility. Could be a guy that rotates in for the box slot area, rotates in if you just want a third safety. Somebody needs a breather. It could be that guy. So it's an interesting guy here that I'm keeping an eye on for sure. That could be one of those guys that could have a better NFL career. Maybe just because of scheme fit, perhaps. So we'll see, but that's definitely an interesting one. So this video is mainly steals, and I'm floating right now. I'm going to move myself down. There we go. Mainly steals. So when I think steal, you could say undrafted guys are steals as well. We're about to talk about them, but I mainly think like where they're picked. Maybe they were picked a little too late. So we talked about the 10 guys that I thought were steals that were drafted. Let's talk about some undrafted free agents, and there's more than this, but the 5 that really that are really standing out. Tyson Bagent, quarterback for the Bears, played at Shepherd, and then he was kind of a talking point, the combine thing, things like that. Senior Bowl. So he did things right to get to that point, to make it there. He looks really good for the Bears. I think it looks like a pretty good fit behind Justin Fields. Reminds me of Heineke a little bit, like a Taylor Heineke, maybe more upside. But looks really good throwing the ball. Being, he can scramble, he can run, but being a pass first guy. But another one of those guys that just kind of has that poise, that that they just got it. They're calm. They know that they're made for this job. It's even more impressive coming from Shepherd, D2. It just feels like it's not too big of a moment for him. So I love that. He's been fantastic for the Bears in preseason. Emmanuel Wilson, which is on his second team already, as an undrafted rookie, small school guy. He's been tearing it up, leading rushers, leading running backs in preseason. So that means something there. Looks really good. Ivan Pace Jr., which myself and a lot of you out there probably had rated as the best undrafted guy, like the second the draft ended. Like, this guy was too good. He was undersized, so that's why, but too good to not get drafted. But he's a little undersized, but he needed a specific scheme, a team specifically that blitzed quite a bit, and he went to that with Brian Flores' defense in Minnesota. So we knew that was a really good fit. They needed a linebacker. He's been really good in training camp, flying around the field, preseason as well. This is a guy that actually, I think there's other guys here that have probably been more impressive in actual preseason games. Maybe a few of the guys we already talked about, then Caleb Murphy we'll talk about. But Pace is probably the highlighted guy here because he was kind of known as the best one, but because he actually could start. Like, we actually could see this guy starting week 1. If not, I would imagine some games in that Vikings defense. So a little bit of a battle there. They have Jordan Hicks and they have Brian Asamoah. So a little bit of a battle for those 2 spots. So he's been, as expected, he's been impressive. Caleb Murphy was a small school, D2 guy, and he's been tearing it up, getting after the quarterback, and he looks like a natural. He's not just going straight to the quarterback. He's making some good pass rush moves using his hands, using his athletic ability, using the bend. And he was actually a sack leader in D2. So maybe a little bit of overthinking. You know, this guy plain and simple gets after the quarterback, and he's doing it right now with the Tennessee Titans. So he looks pretty good. And that's a guy that I see the Titans keeping around and working with there. Then Eli Ricks, who was a big name, but he dropped out of the draft because of speed, a little slower in the 40, but because of pass off the field issues. But he's a top recruit for a reason. He's got good length. He's got good press man ability, but could play that zone as well. And he already looks, mainly the Week 1 game, already looks pretty good, for the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's probably the biggest name on this list, just based on, I guess, his college career, how he's been around. Maybe Pace was too, because people were surprised he went undrafted. But we got 3 small school guys here really stand out. You love to see that with Bagent, Wilson, and Murphy. So you love to see that. So those guys are really standing out here. So these guys, point of this video, who's looking impressive so far? Because I thought a lot of rookies have looked impressive, and it's more impressive because they weren't. It's like maybe not the obvious guys. Some guys are cleaning up on negatives that we had on them from their college tape. Just making big splash, plays and training camp preseason, so things like that. But again, it's just kind of a fun video because really, regular season football determines things here. So I don't want people to get upset because we're not saying anything's fact or set in stone here. It's just who looks like steals, who's impressive so far. So let me know your guys' thoughts. There's more of them. These are the guys that just caught my eye from based on what I'm watching. Everyone could be different, of course. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments, who you would pick to be on this video. But yeah, can't wait to see how these rookies play in the regular season. Other rookies, more of the first round guys that will get more of an opportunity in the regular season. But like, subscribe to notifications on full NFL coverage here. Check us out on Twitter. Always talk with you guys on there. It's gonna do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.